I'd love to hear just a little bit from each of you about the significance of nature, being in touch with the natural world in terms of your uh, maybe your pain perception, your quality of life. Does it have any impact at all on your yeah, your experience of being alive with your pain? So first of all, you, Tom, have you got anything to say to that?
Yeah, and I guess this is a little bit similar to how the pain had to teach me to be aware, where actually the pain meant that I could no longer do the same exercise that I was used to doing, and that was very frustrating for a long time. I had been quite fit in my early 20s, doing a lot of cycling, and then the knees and even with the soft exercise like cycling or non-impact exercise, it was just very difficult for me to sustain any meaningful exercise doing that. And so it forced me into a place to come to terms with actually walking as an exercise, and it not being a lazy exercise, and it not being a waste of time, that I wasn't, sweating. I was just raising my heart rate a little bit. And I'm very fortunate to live nearby something really beautiful, just a National Trust spot that's I mentioned earlier, where there's a cliff and you can see Manchester. Um, and that's something that again, the pain forced me to do at least every other day. So I've done it. If I don't do it, my pain is worse. My focus is not as good. I'm not as good. I'm not as happy. I'm not as good at my job. All of those things. And so um, the pain has kind of forced me into that, and I very much appreciate that element of it, because it's one of my great pleasures is just to go before I've even spoken to anyone in the morning. I'll drive there when there's nobody else there, or just a few dog walkers, and I'll walk for about an hour if I can, with a few breaks in between. And there's little spots to meditate where you're just surrounded by the nature, and you're just, as you sit there, more the nature gets louder and louder, more and more for you to tune into as the forest kind of forgets that you're there, and the birds and the squirrels and all the little animals come out. So I would say that it's definitely a huge part for me of my ongoing health, not
Mm.
only because you're getting the exercise, but just what that being in nature does for you. We're living in a very inert way where you can spend, and I still do this occasionally, not intentionally, but I sometimes will just wake up, and if I sit at the laptop first to start my work day, I might just never leave the house all day. So, um, and when I do that the next day, I'm more likely to do it, and I'm more likely
Oh
to get into a
yes,
bad
yes.
pattern.
Interesting that you called it an inert world.
Mm,
And then when you describe being out in nature, it's like nature. And as you say, when you're still and then nature wakes up, it's so beautiful, isn't it? And you
mm.
hear, you sort of hear and feel, and that kind of
I'm getting
energy.
tingle. I'm getting tingles
Yeah,
while you're talking about it.
it's just a completely
Yeah.
different energy from a sort of hard-edged world of artificially produced surfaces like laptops and
Mm,
screens and so on.
mhm.
So being out in a living, breathing world, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and I could really feel that when you were talking. So how about you, Kareem? This role of nature.
I think, regardless of whether you are, in pain or not, just the curative properties of nature. And there's a lot of research now into it as well. So the jury's out. It's not like this is an opinion anymore. The benefits of being out there. I was born in the Outer Hebrides, so I'm kind of wired or calibrated for very, very rugged, remote, coastal, wet, windy kind of environments. I just kind of come alive when I'm in those environments, and I think that's one of the reasons it's just so great to get out there. You come alive. All the senses are activated much more than they are when you're sat at the desk or on your computer or just indoors. So I'm really passionate about spending time in nature, about encouraging others to spend time in nature. I mean, I shared the Wild Mind project with you, really trying to take people out and use nature as the prime mover for a shift in perspective.
So
Because I think,
you're going to be taking people on quite big trips, I think, aren't you, into the
yeah, I mean, they're certainly not meditation retreats, but they are mindfulness based or mindfulness inspired. But essentially, we're calling them odysseys. So it's really like a journey on many levels, taking people out into some very remote places. You know, Yellowstone Park. There's a spot in the park that's the most remote place in the lower 48 states in
wow, wow.
continental US, and another spot in Slovenia. But I think it's a very good entry point if you haven't, got a meditation practice, or it's not a deepened meditation practice. Just be what you said there, Tom. Just being in nature is a practice in and of itself. I mean, you're in this being mode, and yeah. So I'm not really sure how to articulate it any better than that. The short answer is yes. Nature's awesome, and it's really helped me feel a lot better. I will say, I really resonated what Tom said, where when you all of a sudden cannot do a lot of the activities you used to, the physical activities, and you're left with walking, which the previous you might have thought, oh, that's a cop out. I walk to the shops. I don't walk for exercise or activity. But walking, and then walking in nature, wow, I mean, just always feel better afterwards, no matter how slow you're walking, how fast you're walking, or where you are. But if
Of
it's in the
course,
natural,
sometimes, if you walk mindfully, you're going to hear nature much more than if you're pounding through on a jog.
yeah,
So that's quite interesting, isn't it? That we're a bit slower and mindful, nature can get in, perhaps in a slightly different way. Obviously, for those people who can jog through nature, well, that's great if you can do that. But there's something that when we can't do that very vigorous stuff, it does let the quieter part of the world come in. Because we're not sort of we're just
there's also gratitude.
right.
I think there's a lot of gratitude that's cultivated from being out there. And again, it requires a bit of awareness. So I think awareness practice is so important. But there's gratitude for just the beauty of the world, of life, that you may be missing when you're clouded with judgment and criticism and fear and self-blame and all those things. So yeah, the gratitude of being out there.
Yeah, and
Very,
of course, there's for the people that we work with, a lot of people can't get out into nature. So I always just encourage, well, open the door and look at the sky, or have plants in your house. I always have plants around me, so I've got living things around me. I think that's very important. But yeah, so what I'm hearing from both of you is a resounding yes, that nature is significant and important part of this overall kind of healing lifestyle that you're both, modeling so well.
yeah.
Great. So thank you very, very much.